الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد الأمين وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين آمين يا رب العالمين. Dear respected viewers, brothers and sisters in Islam, dear viewers who are following us from indeed other schools of thought, other religions, no religion whatsoever, welcome back to this show, back to the basics in which we are recording from the holy city of Karbala. I am your host, Yahya Seymour, and the whole purpose of this show, for those of you who are unaware and are tuning in for the first time, is to go back to a basic formula for how we can identify trends of truth, and more importantly, a consistent framework and operational means of dialogue with those who differ with us. And when I say differ with us, that can be as simple as differences even within our own school of thought, and differences within the same religion, that is to say, the larger umbrella of what people call Islam, and also other religions within the Abrahamic faiths, then moving on to as far out as those who believe in no religion whatsoever, or those who literally hold that there is no such thing as a true belief as well. I, of course, have taken the past 3 episodes out, or has it been 2? I believe it's been 3, in order to discuss some of the viewer concerns, comments, and questions. Now, of course, I don't tend to do this too frequently. One reason I have allowed time to be taken out for this is because I do think that in this initial phase of beginning the show, in this what the channel hopes will be the first season, it's important for me to engage with what some of the very innocent, and in some cases less innocent, people have to say about this program and the content which has been produced. Of course, I have generally picked those questions which have been forwarded to me of a very sincere nature, or of those who tend to be from backgrounds which I think are important for myself to engage with. Particularly if there's an atheist out there, I'm very happy to see that you have been tuning into the show. I really wouldn't have expected it. I generally expected a very limited demographic. And so, alhamdulillah, all praise is due to Allah. It's very pleasing to see that there has been some level of engagement, and it pleases me to be able to at least respond to some of your queries or concerns. Of course, the letter which we read in the last episode was of a slightly less, some people might say that he was slightly less worthy of being responded to, but nonetheless I felt that there is a general prevalent ideology out there, a general prevalent attitude towards almost a holier than thou type of righteousness present in some of those who claim to belong to the same madhab as myself. And indeed, inshallah ta'ala, they are from the same general umbrella of Shia Islam like myself. But nonetheless, it was necessary to engage with such comments because they're becoming more and more common, and it's becoming a very kind of prominent train of thought that we can police others based upon things that we perceive to be mistakes and really give them a hard time and try to impose our own understanding on things. And as we saw in yesterday's episode, that understanding is not necessarily even based upon the very scholars they claim to follow. So I wanted to make that clear. And today I wanted to go through the very last letter which I felt was worthy of engaging with. Inshallah ta'ala, I've chosen them from all slightly different backgrounds. But that's not to say I chose them from many. There was about 7 letters and I chose 4 of them. So in regards to the issue we were discussing prior to these letters, we were discussing the concept of the worldview of Christianity. And we were discussing the concept of God according to Christianity, and we will be moving on to some other issues. But of course, I wanted to, prior to returning to that, just finish off with the last of these letters, because I do think these letters allow me to articulate slightly more what the whole purpose of these shows is. Now, of course, the letter starts off, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I have been trying to get this message to Sheikh Yahya for a while, but I am incapable of reaching him via the available contact details on the internet. Yes, sadly, I tend to lack an internet presence, and this is part and parcel of trying to dedicate your life to studying the sciences. It's often necessary to just abandon these internet activities, and especially I was given advice from a very sincere young man, and he's a very young man connected with the rawayat of Ali Muhammad, and he cited from the advice given by the holy imams that one should try their best to enter into a phase of isolation when they are trying to secure and build their faith. And of course, I am loyal to the worldview of Ali Muhammad. I like to engage with the thoughts of others, but spending too much time with others is one thing that will distract you from the ultimate purpose, which is of course to worship Allah Azza wa Jal and to learn from the ulum of Ali Muhammad. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon them. He states, I would very much like for him to address my points, and he can even address them directly, but if he could remove my name and my location due to family reasons, as I am ashamed of what my family may think. Of course, brother, I've removed your name appropriately. I'm a 25-year-old male currently pursuing my master's degree in management in a city in the south of England, brackets outside of London. Now, I know just from reading this, I can already foresee that some viewers are thinking, why are we reading out his life story? I don't want to be disrespectful to the brother by cutting off what he has said, so allow me to just quickly go through this. I moved away to this city for my undergraduate degree and was given the opportunity to continue my master's at a discounted rate with a new postgraduate loan. I'm not sure whether or not I should congratulate you on that. That's an extra burden on your back, but hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, you'll get a good job, good halal job in management, and it will pay off that loan as soon as possible. I have attended some of your talks in London in the year 2011, although I was much younger and you were much angrier and heated. I certainly was. May Allah forgive me for any, dare I say, unregulated and un-Islamic behavior from those days. May Allah forgive us all, inshallah ta'ala. I have spoken to several friends of mine who are in the clergy of London, such as, and I'm going to omit the names here, of course, and by clergy, brother, again, I take reservation to this particular term. What you mean is, you have spoken to some friends of yours who have dedicated their life to being students of knowledge. May Allah preserve them all and guide us all, inshallah ta'ala. And they have all suggested that I speak to you, but were unaware of your whereabouts or how to get hold of you. But whilst watching IMAM HUSSEIN TV for a discussion of, and I'm going to omit the name of which discussion you were watching, actually, it's not my show, I stumbled across your video by accident. Okay, well, alhamdulillah, Allah guides people to watch these videos. I have watched each episode available, brackets all 16, and was wondering why you stopped so abruptly. Well, brother, I haven't actually stopped abruptly. There has been some technical issues which prevented the shows from being uploaded upon the regular schedule that they were meant to. And Allah knows best, and Allah has a hikmah in everything He does. So there's more than 16, that's for certain. This is practically the second month we're going into this series. And so I didn't stop abruptly. I have been continuing, and inshallah ta'ala I'll continue for a short duration afterwards. Back to myself, I have been torn between Shia Islam and Sunni Islam since moving to university, and I would very much like to hear the best arguments of both sides. In regards to Sunni Islam, I have been attracted to their staunch devotion and dedication to Tawheed. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to finish the entire paragraph, and any comments I have, I might add them afterwards. The Quranic recitation and their strict seriousness about being practicing. Even between Sunni Islam, I am trapped between the Salafi branch, which is strict in its discipline, and the Sufi branch, which does everything in love of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Although your lectures are making me curious as to which direction you are heading and have made me consider Shia Islam as an option again, there is still much I must consider. Now, of course, brother, I know just from the name of your email account where you're most likely from. So you're either, generally I know that I can restrict it down to 2 countries, inshallah ta'ala, just from the name of the tribe. But I'm not going to comment on that, inshallah ta'ala. So it's interesting to just have a background on you. In regards to what you said, I can fully understand why there has been this dichotomy where sometimes we Shia communities will seem a lot more cultural. It seems like we're dedicating a lot more time to just the 10 days of Muharram, and there's rarely any devotional acts. Again, it all depends on the university you go to and the particular ABSOC that is available. I wasn't sure which city you were studying in, and that's probably better, so I don't recite it, well, so I don't say it out on this show. But I can only imagine there might not even be an ABSOC or an Ahlul Bayt society where you're based. And so I can understand why sometimes there's this attraction to take part in the wider Muslim community. And definitely, there's sometimes you really do see the dedication and devotion shown by some of the adherents on the other side. And it does make you wonder why there's this lack of dedication from our own youth. And of course, I think we'll come back to that. So it seems like you are attracted to very staunch devotion and dedication to Tawheed. I understand the concept of Tawheed, the base concept, the concept that there is one God. This is something that should be called to, and it's something which is very attractive. Again, the Quranic recitation, hands down, I will hand it to you 100%. There is a lack of emphasis on Quranic recitation within our own community. I'm guilty of it myself. May Allah guide us all and allow us to have more time to focus on the Thaqal al-Akbar, namely the recitation of the Holy Quran. And there's strict seriousness about being practicing. Again, agreed. Brother, we're going to take a very short break and I'll come right back to your letter afterwards. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, welcome back from that quick break. We are, of course, reading out one of the letters that we received from one of the, inshallah ta'ala, sincere brothers out there who has several queries, and it's really an honor for me that he's allowed me to have an insight into such an intricate part of his life, inshallah ta'ala. So he states that he has been at university and he's been facing these issues of being attracted to another school of Islam. And in particular, he's attracted between 2 different schools, the Salafi and the Sufi school. Now we'll continue. If you don't mind, Sheikh, I'd really appreciate it if you address some major questions for me. I think all of them heavily relate to the concept of worldview that you have been discussing. Number 1. Well, he's not numbered them, but nonetheless. Number 1, what is the best way to deal with doubts? Brother, the best way to deal with doubts is to, number 1, make clear before Allah Azza wa Jal that you are a human being and that Allah Azza wa Jal is the one that can save you from these doubts. Once you do that, once you understand that Allah Azza wa Jal does not and is not the author of confusion, that Allah Azza wa Jal would not allow your mind to be confused when there is truth available, and that Allah Azza wa Jal is not policing you for entertaining a thought about something which is open to questioning. And what I mean by that is, when it comes to the laws of Islam, when it comes to fiqh, we would all submit that because this universe does not have any natural laws that dictate how one must act, which would have existed without a God, then the only one that can issue commandments is a commander. When it comes to fiqh, therefore, it would make sense, of course, that we would submit 100% to the evidence which is in line with the Quran and the Sunnah. When it comes to aqeedah, however, we must make sure that the aqidah we are given is not in contrast or conflict with the rationality that we as human beings have been endowed with. If you find that something contradicts the base aql, and I've already defined the base aql in several shows, particularly those pertaining to worldview, they're already uploaded on YouTube, I believe. You'll find the definition there. If you find that these beliefs do not contradict these rational tenets, then there's nothing to worry about. If you find that a belief does contradict the rational tenets, then of course it requires a further internal search. And my advice to you, my brother, is to remain sincere, keep making dua to Allah Azza wa Jal, and to not cave in, and to not be afraid of asking questions. It is your right to ask questions, and you should ask questions. Just make sure that you ask these questions to the right people. Don't believe that everyone who has a piece of cloth on their head, like myself even, is necessarily the right person. Go to the experts, brother. Go to the experts, ask who the experts are, and inshallah ta'ala, I may even email you who some of these experts are. They tend not to be available in the city of London, but of course they can be accessed elsewhere. How do we know which sources are most accurate? I believe, my brother, that the discussion of source criticism is one of the most absurd discussions which can occur to a certain degree. And what I mean by that, my brother, is that if this debate is internal to Islam, again, it will become a case of the Sunni sources say and the Shia sources say. And it will become an internal battle where one side tries to demonstrate using their side that the other side is deficient, the other tries to do the same, and both sides will try to use the sources of the other to show that there's contradictions as well. This is, of course, something which I believe is fallacious. I believe that the very foundation of our religious discussion starts at the concept of the intellect, the concept of Tawheed, the concept of Nabuwah, and then makes its way forth and proceeds. If you have faltered on the foundations of those things, based upon text, then the texts themselves are fallacious. Why do Shias not care about religion most days of the year, and why are our centers run by ? I don't know what the second part of that question actually means, to be honest with you. So why do Shias not care about religion most days of the year? Allahu A'lam. Due to our own taqsir, due to our own shortcomings. And this is something that we as individuals can inshallah ta'ala change, my brother. And why are our centers run by ? I don't know what that means. Inshallah ta'ala, you may clarify that to me if inshallah ta'ala you choose to respond to my email. What made a non-Muslim like yourself consider Shia Islam? I have been getting asked this question quite a lot, and I believe inshallah ta'ala if you watch the entire concept of Back to the Basics from the start till the end, we'll have a more thorough outline of that. That might not have been essentially the reason that got me interested in Shia Islam. However, as a series, it talks about and it will go through the reasons why I believe in Shia Islam, inshallah ta'ala. Why is there no focus upon Tawheed in Shia Islam? This is a great question, my brother, and it's a question which must be answered directly, honestly, and sincerely. Do most Shia speakers talk about Tawheed? No. Do most Shia discussions revolve around Tawheed? No. Do most Shias in general think about Tawheed? Allahu A'lam. Allah knows what is in the hearts of people. On the apparent, do most Shias think about Tawheed? No. Unfortunately, we have been dragged into a war where we are so busy trying to defend secondary beliefs to the issue of Tawheed, like the issue of Imamah, that we essentially allow people to put us on a back foot where the only thing we become obsessed with is discussing Imamah. However, if you return back to the texts of the Imams, you refer back to the books of the Imam, the books which were compiled by our great scholars, like Kitab al-Tawheed of Sheikh al-Saduq, like Ayun al-Akhbar al-Rida of Sheikh al-Saduq, like Kitab al-Ihtijaj, other books, like for example Usul al-Kafi, you would find that there are chapters on Tawheed which require a thorough analysis and if studied would give you a perfect understanding of Tawheed. An understanding of Tawheed which is not like the understandings of any other school, not even the extinct Mu'tazilites. Given that Sunnis and Shias differ on sources, what do you say is the best proof for imamate, independently speaking? It's a very good question, and my answer to that would be in the same way that we judge any particular religion, not on the basis of internal textual criticism. So what I mean by that, my brother, is in the same way that I do not look at the textual transmission of the New Testament and say to myself, well, because this document is corrupted, therefore the Trinity is false. Rather, I would say the Trinity is false, the Incarnation is false, all these other doctrines, according to my perspective as a Muslim, are false, therefore I reject the New Testament. Now, transmission might also aid you in this particular concept. However, the real question is, do we believe in concepts because a text says it, or can the aql, can the intellect tell us that certain concepts are fallaciously wrong from the inception? I am arguing here that when it comes to the best proof for imama, independently speaking, the best proof is what I would call a collective argument based upon the intellect in addition to the text. Do I have the time to go through it right now? No. I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal gives me this opportunity throughout the show Back to the Basics after we deal with some of the earlier worldview questions. Do you ever doubt? Yes. I have gone through numerous phases of doubt in the past. When I say doubt, I would say that these doubts have been more caused by a lack of a willingness to engage with the real questions, and more importantly, allowing others to dictate their agenda of what is proof and impose that upon me. So allow me to say this. When it comes to the issue of Christianity, when it came to the issue of Christianity and I chose to reject it as a teenager, I never once had an argument such as, you're unfamiliar with Koine Greek, you're unfamiliar with the transmission of the Bible, do you know how this particular codex reached you, in order for me to know that Christianity was false. Nor did anyone tell me that my unfamiliarity with these particular concepts was a justification for me to remain within the religion because I was not an expert in it. Likewise, I would say that I was put into a level of doubt by the existing trends which exist in religious dialogues. I would be asked by people who are atheists to provide evidence for God based upon a fact that they have no canon of evidence. When you break down their assumptions, you would see that they had no standards by which I could even prove anything. And yet I would try my best to argue with this, and this would put doubts into my mind of why is the proof for God not solid enough? Of course, alhamdulillah, through understanding the concept of worldview, I have overcome that barrier. Likewise, I would find it with Christians, and likewise, I would find the same issue with those Muslims of other schools as well. Now, do I ever doubt? I have doubted in the past, certainly. I am still open to being wrong, and I pray, inshallah ta'ala, that Allah Azza wa Jal would guide me to the straight path, and inshallah ta'ala, keep me on the straight path once I am guided to it. And is it unhealthy to doubt? It's unhealthy to make a rash decision based upon your doubts. But it's not unhealthy to ask the right questions, because indeed, Allah Azza wa Jal states, truth has come and falsehood has perished. Verily, falsehood is within its nature self-perishing. Dear viewers, thank you so much for tuning into this show of Back to the Basics. There remains a couple of questions on the brother's letter, so we will address them in the next episode, inshallah ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.